All right, just in the end of the season for us and getting rolling, I don't know if this will be the last press conference unless something big happens, but looking back at the season, a few things. I thought progression-wise, there was an awful lot of good things, and I know wins or losses are what it comes down to. And but I think the advancement in the Big Ten, we went from 21 points to 30 points. I think dropping the losses by 3. Certainly not one to compare myself to Coach Mason at all, but looking at his first 2 years and the things they had to kind of work through, I think there's some very similar things. And he had 14 wins his first year, 12 his second year, but they dropped the number of losses. They made some progress, and I think the biggest thing that probably was there was working on that culture. And I was around back then, maybe not as aware of it as a young guy, but you just see the advancement of the teams. And I know guys like Newell Brown and Ron Scott that were there in some of the early years in the transfer over. And I look at Coach Izzo, and congratulations to those guys. What a run in the regular season and the Big Ten playoffs, and excited to keep watching it. But when Iz is talking about them being relentless and focused on winning and all those things, and that's a cultural thing. And people think that Miles Bridges and Jerron Jackson, they take off and they're gone, but the culture part of that doesn't leave, and that's really where we're at, and that toughness and that resiliency. And I think our guys displayed a lot of that stuff. And when you get over that hump, we look at next year with Taro leaving. Well, it's a lot like Miles leaving a year early. Good players are going to leave, and they're going to go on and have great success in that. But what they've left in terms of our compete and, like I said, our culture, that doesn't leave with them. That stays here, and it's up to the guys to keep passing that on. And I've said it a few times, a really good friend of mine that served 20-some years in Marines. I went out to Quantico to his retirement party a few years ago, 2 years ago. Fabulous thing. But him going through it, and he talked about with his groups and his squads that he ran, that culture beats strategy. And that's a big thing, and that's something that we started working on. I always told our guys with the NTDP that worried about the draft, I always said, the most important day of the draft is the day afterwards, and that's when you get to work, and that's when you start making your money. And that's kind of like us. Our first week after finishing the season, we took the week off, which is good. They got some rest mentally, physically. We'll get back at it this week. We'll be on the ice a bit. We'll be in the weight room a bit, working on some things, some habits, some concepts. I want to be a faster team next year, and we will be. We'll go through that. And then we're all on the road. All 3 of us were on the road recruiting and getting things going. We'll probably add, we lost 3 seniors this year. We'll probably add 3 to 5 guys for next year. And that gets easier with Taro going to the NHL. He's, I believe, playing tomorrow night versus the Rangers, so that'll be a good thing. But a lot of positive things, and everything we've been talking about since we got here, just about almost 2 years ago now, in terms of recruiting elite players, that's going on. Identifying those elite players and signing them. We've already got 2 for sure coming in next year that I think are going to be outstanding additions. That's moving forward, being a place where we want to train and develop players. We're seeing that. Zach Osborne's playing in the AHL, had a great debut. Taro's going to be playing in the NHL. And you're going to see more and more of those guys coming through here. Crowds at Munn, those have increased in 2 years, over 1,000 per game since the year before I got here. That was a big target. Those need to get to sellouts. We're moving in the right direction. And then the thing that's always tied all that in together is Munn, and that's moving the right way. And I think 2 years ago, I had a lot of people looking at me like I had 2 heads and saying, yeah, right, you're going to get that done. Well, we're going to be working on that this summer, and we've had a lot of tremendous help from a lot of tremendous people, and that's going to move forward. So really positive on all fronts, and we keep moving, and like I said, we keep building that culture, and good things will happen. So that's where we're at right now.
I guess I'm going to pull a Hondo here. I have 2 questions. So the first one that I just want to know, initially when you found out that Hirose was going to leave and he was going to be with the Red Wings and he's, going to be playing, just your overall thoughts, first of all, on this step in his life for him.
Well, not a big surprise. I think, certainly last year he had a great year. I think this year he had some things to prove. And I think he did. And he got better off ice, he got better on ice. So I'd say around, by Christmas, we were pretty sure that he wasn't coming back. And as he kept going and kept doing well game in and game out, we knew that was a factor. So that's for us, again, it's an incredibly positive thing. And from a selfish reason, playing for the Red Wings is even better for us. That means I can see pretty much every one of his games, and we can keep track. We can go down and watch him play. And again, just if you've seen his interviews, he's just a great ambassador for Michigan State, and so it's a great thing. So I don't know if I'm as excited as he is about it, but I'll probably show more emotion and be more excited visibly than he is.
And then, I know it's so early, but if you had to initially think maybe who slides up to that top line to play with Kodorico and Lewandowski, what's your initial, who's the first person maybe that comes to your mind?
Right, well, I think first off, we've got two guys coming in, like I said, I mentioned earlier, that will be here, that we're assured of, I guess. And I think one of those two, if not both of them, have the capability of doing that. And that's, you got to kind of see where the chemistry is with that. But I'm hoping that both those guys can play in our top six forwards. And that's been, our biggest test has been that depth of scoring would be one, and that got better as the year went along. I think by the end of the year, I don't know if Barnes can give you stats, but last half of the year we were over 3 goals per game. That puts us in the top 15 or 20 in the country. That's not bad. And even towards the end there, Taro and his line hit a bit of a drought. I don't think he had a point in the last 6 games. We, other than the 2 Notre Dame ones, continued to score. So I think that depth will be good. I think at times we were playing 6 and 7 freshmen in our lineup. Our forwards, they'll produce, they'll get better. Our 3 freshmen on the backside are going to play a lot more minutes. I think the 3 of them combined will be able to eat up Oz's minutes, which is great. And then, Drew and net, he and Leth will be a great tandem going forward. So really, it's going to be that depth, and then the guys coming in, and we'll see where that goes.
Last year you had guys leave, so it was opened up a door for maybe a couple of blessings to pop in at the end of the thing. I think everyone saw that Taro was probably going to have the opportunity. It was his choice about going. Are there some guys that instantly come on the radar? I know you can't discuss them, that all of a sudden now a door's open?
Yeah, not instantly, but I think that, again, we knew fairly certain about a month ago that this was going to happen, so you kind of plant the seeds. And the way the recruiting game is now is that there's advisors and coaches and alumni and people we know that know we're going to be in that situation, so names come up. And I think one that Coach Exter did a great job on, that kind of came to fruition real quickly, so that was great for us. And then we'll continue to work. I still think we can probably add one more forward. And possibly a defenseman if it's the 100% right fit, we would do it. Other than that, like I said, we've got 6 returners that played an awful lot, and we're happy with them. And then Czech and Scarcella gave us some great depth and did some good work this year. So right now, like I said, we'll look for one more forward and possibly a D.
Dan, is there any anticipation that someone like Kodorenko might also make that leap?
There's always those possibilities. I think, my thoughts, and I've met with Patty on it, I think he's in a very similar situation right now that Taro was in last year at the end of the year, where he had a great year. I think there's still, people want to know just what his limit is. I think there's some things that he can do better, that he can work on over the summer. And, my goal for him is, he'll be on one of the all-league teams, just like Taro was last year. I think coming back, he should want to be on the first team all-league. He should want to be a first team All-American, and then have multiple NHL contracts. So I think he can attain that. But certainly, if the right thing comes along, then we sit down and talk about it. But right now, from where we're at and meetings with guys, again, anything can happen. But right now, I think everybody other than Taro will be back.
You mentioned that there's 2 recruits. Are they signed? Can you talk about them?
I can't talk anything about them.
Okay. Also, you mentioned you expect the team to be faster next year. Is that with new players coming in, or player development in the off season? And if part of this player development, who do you think can become faster, play faster?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things now. One, that's one of the big things that I'm talking to Coach Exter and Coach Luongo when we're on the road, that, hockey IQ and pace of play are important, and they'll bring that. I think training is another part of it. And I think our off-season, the first summer was, we jumped in. I think last summer made some strides. This summer, Coach Vorkovich and I talked about adding some other things that I think will help us out tremendously. And the third part is the concept aspects. You can play faster, understanding, things that you're doing. So if everybody's on the same page and you get together, all of a sudden everybody looks a little bit faster, you move the puck a little faster, you pressure on the way back a little better. That makes you a faster team. And I think by the second half of this year, we were getting there. And I think the turnover of us, the first year, I think we had 19 of our 24, 25 guys were freshmen and sophomores. I think last year we had 16 or 17 of our 28 were freshmen or sophomores. So, you finally get to that point where you've got some seniors and juniors that have been through it a little bit. And again, that's a cultural thing, that all those things will add up to us being faster.
You mentioned bringing back 6 defensemen who played a lot. 3 of those guys were freshmen. So what is the goal for their development here throughout the summer after getting a full year under their belt?
Well, there's the strength and training aspect is huge, and Denny Susanna probably played more than the other 2. That was pretty easy, and his role kind of increased. And I think with the weight room is going to be his friend. The weight room, the track, that's where he's got to live. And he's a guy that towards the end of the year was getting to 22, 23 minutes. He might be a guy that matches up with Jared, where he's getting 25 minutes a lot of games, and even more when necessary, and started killing some penalties. The Krieger twins, they kept getting better and better. I thought maybe their best game of the second half was the last game of the year. And you know what, they're 18-year-old defensemen. There's not a lot of those in NCAA hockey. And we don't have a lot of true freshmen, especially more forwards than defensemen, and certainly a lot more than the goalies. Drew is one of the few 18-year-olds that's there playing. So, their strength, some of their concepts and habits have to get a lot better, and that's something that we can start, and we are starting to work on immediately, and that carries over the summer. But the nice thing about them is that their base, their understanding of the game, their aggressiveness, like a lot of those intangibles are already there. So again, the weight room and track, and then a lot of reps on the ice. But those guys are gonna, they're gonna have to eat 15 to 20 minutes of ice time next year, and they should be able to handle that all day long. I don't even have any other questions.
Yeah, one more thing about Susanna. Did he exceed what you expected this year, or was that about what you expected?
I think offensively, we knew that capability was there, but it's hard to have 20-some points. As I think he ended up with 24, and at the time was tied for the lead for freshmen, not just defensemen, but forwards as well when our season ended in scoring. And so that part didn't surprise me. His IQ and his hands are there, and certainly his passion. I think on the defensive side, he kept getting better and better, and I think he did exceed us. And if you watched later on in the game on Saturday night, we're in the second game of an elimination game, 5-on-3 power play against us, and Dennis Susanna is out there, and that's a young man that wasn't killing at the beginning of the year. So I thought, that was a tremendous thing. So that part, I think he got over the top, and we got some more minutes out of him earlier, and I thought we would go from there. And last but not least, just want to say that Taro playing is a pretty neat thing for us. But on a side note, I think that'll be my 100th player that's played for me that's playing in the NHL. So it's kind of a nice little round number for Taro to be, and certainly there'll be a lot more in the next few years coming through here. So we look forward to that as well. All right, thank you.